What's up guys, it's Latitude. Today we're going to be talking about attacking sites in Valorant. These are going to be very general tips. Now I get asked a lot how to attack a site, and in my opinion, attacking a site is probably more difficult than defending a site. And the main reason for this is because attacking a site requires more team coordination than defending a site, and it requires you to be more aggressive. When you defend a site, you just have to hold an angle and try to get the first shot off of attackers. You have every advantage in that situation. When attacking a site, you need to use your numbers advantage and take control of the site. So without further ado, we're going to dive right into this. So, general site attacking. So you have two main objectives when attacking a site. The first one is to get the bomb safely to the site, plant it, and defend it until it blows up. The second is to eliminate all the opposition. You can do either or of these. You can plant the bomb, then kill everybody. You could plant the bomb, let it blow up, then kill everybody, or you can just straight out kill everybody. The choice is really up to you. You want to make sure that at all times you can do either of these objectives. We'll talk about this more later. So, the first big thing I have written here is communication. Comms are always very important whenever you're attacking or defending, and not calling out the position of where defenders are will greatly reduce your chances at winning rounds. This is because if you don't use the info advantage that you gain after dying or after seeing somebody, then your team can't react and you can't focus your firepower on a defender who has the advantage of holding an angle. Without communication, it makes it a lot more difficult to act as a team and to capitalize on enemy mistakes. Call out wherever you see defenders or flankers and react to your teammates doing the same. If you do this, it'll make it a lot harder for you to get flanked, and it'll be a lot easier for you to take fights and take sites. When attacking, you want to make sure you keep the bomb safe. If your entry or lurker has the bomb, then you'll lose the game very quickly, because as soon as they die, the enemy will rotate to the bomb and just hold it, and you'll never be able to pick it up until you kill all the enemies. It makes it easier for them because they know that you're not going to be roaming the map, you're going to be coming to this one spot where the bomb is, or you lose. So giving the enemy control of the bomb is very dangerous and increases your odds of losing the round. That being said, if you plan to peek or lurk, make sure you drop the bomb either to a teammate or safely behind some cover where it can be grabbed by your teammates and not found by the defenders. If you're the last person alive, this doesn't matter because if you die with the bomb, the round will be over anyway, so make sure you always have the bomb in your possession if you're the last man. And only if you're the last man, make sure you always have the bomb in your personal possession and that you don't drop it anywhere. On attack, the use of sound is a big part of pushes and denying pushes. You want to make sure you stay as quiet as possible until the last possible moment. This is because once the enemy knows where you are, they will react accordingly. So they'll rotate people off sites, they'll get a flank going, or they'll know exactly where to aim. If they know that everybody's coming out long, they're not going to bother looking at a different angle. They'll look where they hear all the sound coming from, and they'll pick you guys off really easily. They can also reposition their forces. For example, in bind, if you have two people watching short and one person watching bath, if you know that everybody's coming from short, then the person watching bath will probably look at short and aid the people holding the angles. Once the enemy knows where you are, act. So you can either push onto the site, hold angles and don't peek. If they have any flankers or they have people that like to flank, it's going to catch them off guard and you can get an easy pick, making it a 4v5 or a 3v5. You want to rotate out as quickly as possible and go to a different site. It's up to you if you want to leave a lurker or not to catch the defenders rotating for a flank. Or you want to fake a rotate and come back to try again. You can use sound to fake your team's presence somewhere. Send one or two people close to a site and make some noise with gunshots, footsteps, and try not to take a risky peek to keep the enemy on their toes. You're basically using yourself as bait, and you might sacrifice yourself. Dying is okay, but really try not to, because as attackers, your big advantage is the numbers advantage you have when taking over a site. And if you die, then you effectively remove 20% of your firepower from your team, which is a big number, especially when there's less than 4 people left. This is because once there's only 3 people left on the team, you no longer have a numbers advantage, and you're probably going to be pushing the site against 3 or 2 people, instead of pushing 5 people into 3 or 2 people. You get me. If you're faking your team's presence, you want to make sure that you bait enemy teammates into your team or into yourself. If you're sending 2 people and one of you dies, make sure you trade the kill, so it's not a lost trade. If you're faking your presence somewhere else, once your team is on site, make sure you rotate fast and get ready to provide immediate fire support. Chances are, as soon as you get to the site, the enemy will have rotated too, and your team will probably be in the middle of fighting. Whatever site you decide to push, take it quickly. Once you get a pick or 2, get onto the site. Since defenders have so many advantages, including time, being able to hold angles, and having a general idea of where your team probably is, you want to make sure you get the bomb planted down as soon as you can on the site, so it's one less thing your team has to worry about doing, and you can focus on just fragging out or defending the bomb. And then you take the time advantage, and the defenders have to go on the attack. If you take too long, the defenders will rotate. They might get the pick on the bomb carrier as they're planting, or they might just get control of the bomb completely, and you lose. So basically, if the defenders rotate, you lose. Make sure this doesn't happen, and make sure you take the site quickly, get the bomb planted, and start defending. A big important thing to remember is never let your entry die untraded. The first person out of a corner will 9 times out of 10 die when playing against a skilled defending aimer. Peeking with multiple people at a time will increase your odds of winning a trade. If the defender misses a shot, he'll be forced to fall back and wait for his team, if this is the case. Now, why is this? Counter-Strike and Valorant are both games about taking advantages and avoiding disadvantages. If 2 skilled players were to engage in a 1v1, you could say it was completely fair. Although that isn't optimal, you can still take this fight. As soon as it becomes a 2v1, the one person is at a disadvantage while the 2 people have the advantage of having 2 lives and having 2 times the guns firing at the one person. This means 2 times the chance of getting a headshot, 2 times the chance of getting hit stun or hit slow, tap slow, and 2 times the chance of just killing the target outright. This is why if multiple people peek the same angle when you're pushing out, it'll discourage defenders from re-peeking or contesting your angle, and you'll get control that way. An important part of attacking is knowing the basic strats. There are 3 strats that get used multiple times in ranked competitive queue. These 3 strats are default, rush, and slow push. To default means you spread your attackers around the map, for example 1 mid, 2A, 2B, 2 mid, 1A, 2B, etc. And you play for picks. Once you get a pick, you either push the site or regroup and push a different site. This can give you even more of a numbers advantage because you can peek 2 people at one angle, maybe get a pick or get a trade. The person playing by themselves can watch for flanks and counter them, or you can all out just bum rush a site after you get a couple picks with 2 people and you can get some quick site control. It's good to run default if you consistently do a rush or a slow push and the enemy team doesn't expect you to be separated. Sometimes defaulting is good to do when your team doesn't take sites effectively, but you have a lot of good DMers and a lot of good 1v1ers. If you're a good rifler, defaulting is an excellent strategy. Defaulting is also very effective when the enemy team has a lot of flankers. This is because flankers tend to put themselves in unfavorable situations for the element of surprise, and once you take away their advantage of surprise, they're just left in a very poorly defensible position where you can get an easy pick. Rushing is when you go fast onto the site and you not stop. No matter what, you can't stop when you rush. You want to get onto the site even if you die and get control that way. Rushing is a very high risk, high reward strat, but it can get you some easy wins if the enemy team does not rotate or doesn't react to rushing very well. If you stop when you rush, it will effectively make this whole strategy not work because it'll slow everybody behind you down and bait the people in front of you of thinking that you'll trade them when you're not in the position to. Rushing is great because of the way the guns work in Valorant. If you tap too fast, then your gun becomes completely inaccurate. So while the first person out might die, the defender's weapon won't be ready to get an accurate headshot by the time 2 or 3 other people peek the corner. The big important part of rushing is getting onto site, getting the bomb planted, and getting ready to defend it. Rushing is very effective on pistol rounds if you have crappy eco, or if the enemy is running an op holding an angle that's not a long corridor. With the usage of smokes and other utility, rushing can become super effective with choking defenders out of a site or locking them onto a site to fight your team 1v5 or 2v5. Rushing can be considered a low ELO stomper because low ELO players aren't used to rotating fast and reacting to calls quickly. Slow pushing is where you take your time to get onto a site. We walk slowly and creep onto a site until it's time to take it. The method is good for baiting out impatient players or getting the jump on a bomb site. I typically like to throw slow pushes in every now and then whenever my team's been rushing a lot or taking bomb sites very quickly, because it makes the defenders very uneasy. A slow push usually turns into a rush as soon as you peek the first corner onto the site. This is because you want to use the element of surprise where your whole team just shows up at an angle out of nowhere and get that site very quickly. Defenders won't be ready for it. Slow push can either be a low risk, high reward or high risk, low reward option depending on how the enemy team plays. If the enemy team are very impatient defenders, it's very low risk since they might get antsy and push into you or rotate off site, giving it to you for free. But if they're more patient members, it's high risk because you end up just running down the clock and wasting time. And instead of having a minute and 30 seconds to attack, you'll only have 30 seconds. And having low time to plant the bomb is a very stressful situation for the attackers because defenders don't need to readily take fights as often. They just need to take care of the bomb carrier and stop the plant from going off for 30 seconds, which is really easy to do with all the utility provided in the game. These are 3 basic strats that can be mixed and matched or reapplied throughout the game. For example, you could slow push A, and if that doesn't work, you could rotate out and then rush B or rush C or whatever. You could also fake a rush onto a site, rotate out, and slow push a different site so the enemies don't hear you. These are 3 basic strats that are widely accepted among the Valorant community, but don't be afraid to come up with other strats with your team. There's a lot of cheese strats that tend to work, like sending 1 person or 2 persons to one site and having them rush it while the other 3 people go to the other site with the bomb and plant it. Or sending 4 people to rush a site and having 1 person go to a different site planting the bomb. Mix and match. Feel free to come up with different strats from your team. There's no hard set way to push a site. There's just some methods that are recognized and that are easy to pull off with a solo queued team and an uncoordinated or not as coordinated team. But you can always mix and match depending on what your team is strong at and what they can do. It doesn't really matter what your strat is, just make sure that everybody's on the same page when you execute. Your team's gonna fall apart quickly if you don't work together. If you have 4 people rushing and 1 person deciding to run a default and walking it up mid or walking it up on a different site, not only does this remove your numbers advantage, but it gives the enemy ult charge, it gives the enemy money, it gives them 1 less player to worry about, and it just is basically feeding them at that point. Especially if the solo player gets killed before they get a kill. All in all, playing against your team instead of with your team is detrimental for both parties. Another important part when attacking and defending is to find patterns in the enemy's plans. Do they hold the same angles? Do they always push up? Do they always stack people on a site? Do they put anyone mid? Do they put multiple people mid? Etc. Find out what their patterns are and exploit them. If you find that they stack 4 people A every single round, then take a couple rounds where you go B, where you fast push onto B so you can exploit the fact that there's only 1 person on B. Analyze what they do for each strat, what catches you off guard, if they run any flankers, and exploit those. The best way to counter a flanker is to always expect them. Sometimes even designating a person just to watch the flank is effective too. When you plant the bomb, there's 3 different ways you can plant it. You can plant it in an easily defendable, optimal for attackers place. You can plant it behind the box where there's some cover, but still access to different angles that attackers can hold. Or if you're really stuck, you can plant it in a corner where you're completely safe, but the bomb isn't coverable. So, which ones should you prioritize here? It's obvious that you should prioritize an easily defendable place with as little cover around it as possible and exposing the diffuser, whoever's diffusing the bomb, to multiple angles. This is because it's easy to exploit the fact that there's no cover around this person and making it so you can strike from any angle at any time. It also makes your shot easier since they're going to be crouched with their weapon down, out in the open, and no place for them to run. Anytime you get the chance, plant the bomb this way because it's an easy way to win the round after you get the plant off. You should prioritize this plant whenever it's safe for you to do so, or take a little risk and sacrifice your life to plant the bomb like this. In this case, it's perfectly fine to sacrifice your life to plant the bomb because the bomb timer goes up after 40 seconds and your attacking teammates can easily defend the bomb. It's actually super easy. Like, you don't even need a numbers advantage to hold this. As long as you're watching the bomb or you peek the bomb when it's getting diffused, then you'll usually get a kill and be able to defend it pretty easily. If it's too dangerous to plant the bomb out in the open, it's perfectly okay to plant it behind a box or somewhere where it's exposed a few angles, as long as your attacking team can hold those angles. For example, if you have to plant the bomb behind a box that's wall bangable but protects you somewhat and hides you from the view, then it's fine because your team can still protect it from the other side of the box. In most cases, you'll find that you'll plant the bomb like this because it's very low risk, it keeps you alive. It's super easy to defend, but it's not quite as free-low as the previous method. If you can't safely get a plant in the former 2 areas, plant it where there's no wall bangable walls or in a corner. This is probably my least preferred way to plant the bomb, but it can be a very effective way to plant it, especially if you have a huge numbers advantage, say 2v4 or 1v3. This is simply because in a situation where it's 1v3 or 2v4, you've probably already lost the round, so just planting the bomb gets you money for your team and doesn't ruin your economy that bad. And as long as the bomb is planted, you just need to focus on stalling the defenders until it goes off, even if it means dying. When the bomb is planted, attackers become the defenders, so it's important you play the game like you are one. You want to make sure you use your time advantage, angle advantage, and use the bomb as bait. If you want some more advice on how to defend a site, I made a previous video about general site defense, which covers general defense and how to properly hold a site in Valorant. It doesn't cover everything, but it's very general and very broad topic. If you have any questions, feel free to catch me on Twitch or join my Discord and send me a DM. I'll answer everything, and yeah, maybe I'll even make a video about it. That'll be everything for today, though. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe if you like this video, and I'll see you guys around. Stay healthy, be smart, and spank some cheeks. Peace.